Welcome back to the second part of my interview with Anil Barot. So happy to have you here, and especially to talk about this topic. I mean, it's really a human interest topic, and it's the fact that you climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the highest peak in Africa, located in Tanzania, as I understand.
That's correct.
And it's the fourth highest peak in the entire world. Now, that said, Mount Everest is 50% taller than Mount Kilimanjaro. I mean, Mount Everest is it's. I don't think we can even imagine it unless we've actually walked it up ourselves.
Look at it and say, wow. Boy.
Yeah, but I mean, still, to hike Mount Kilimanjaro is a huge feat. Tell me the whole story. And we're going to be bringing up, by the way, some pictures from his hike as you listen to him tell the story.
So it kind of comes down to, I have a group of friends that we're very close with, and they had done Everest Base Camp.
Oh.
And unfortunately, I was not able to make that due to personal reasons, other things going on in the family. I was not able to make that trek. But I have some great friends that are able to really encourage me to take the trek up to Kilimanjaro. So we trained for it extensively around here, and we did some trips.
Wait a minute, you're living in Flat, Illinois. Did you go out of state?
No, there's some, I would say, hills that we kind of run up, the small hills that we kind of run up, and we do training with, working on putting in our backpack a bunch of water bottles, getting on a treadmill, but using a steep incline, and doing upper body, lower body, exercises, kind of getting our strength. But, it really came down to the team and the group of friends I had in this trip, about 14 of us, a phenomenal group of individuals. We had folks that were in their 20s all the way up into the 60s. Very diverse group. We had about 6 doctors on the trip, several businessmen, and it was a lot of fun. It was mostly all guys. Our wives decided not to join us, and there was a specific reason why not, and that was there was no showers along the way. They said that's not going to work for them, being unbathed or not taking a shower for 8 days.
Oh, that's nothing. We did that at West Point. That was that's no big deal.
So we decided to take. I decided to join this team, and really they had really encouraged me.
So I ran Chicago Marathon one time. Did it.
That's phenomenal.
But I did the 18-week, program that everybody does. For a beginner, just to run it. I was okay with. I was happy with my time, but. So I did that for 18 weeks. How many weeks did it take you to train?
So we actually started training probably about 6 to 9 months before. It was, most of our training, most everyone worked. So it was like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Saturday, Sunday hit it really hard. Friday afternoon, but then every morning, everyone did their own, or Friday or in the afternoons get an hour of workout. And it's really about being mobile. It's a hike, but it's a walk, but it's actually being fit to kind of climb rocks. So one of the things about Kilimanjaro is it's a dormant volcano. And it's a dormant volcano with a lot of rocks. So it's not just a steady, pass. You're talking about boulders that are sitting, so you kind of have to go around them. And really, the route we took, which was called the Lamoshi route, which was an 8-day route. We started in September 4th, and we ended on the 11th, 12th. Time frame, but we took one of the routes which had the highest success factors, and really it's all about climate, climatization of the elevation and the height, and what that does to your stomach, what that does to your mind, and being able to
Is
adapt.
there a base camp for Kilimanjaro, just like Everest, where you kind of stay and acclimate yourself to that climate?
Actually, the acclimation happens every day. So every day, what they do is we start out roughly about 1,500. Don't quote me on these exact numbers. But we start about 1,500, and we start going to 2,100. Then we come down to 1,900. Then we go up to 3,200, come down and sleep at 3,000. So your body adapts as you go up. And every night
you're talking about
the oxygen
height, meters and meter height. Is that correct?
I'm talking about meters. So yes.
Right. So because it's 5,895 meters.
Correct. Mm-hmm. So it's about 19,000 something feet. Mm-hmm. So the intent is to get during the day to get to higher elevation, and then at night to sleep at a lower elevation, so your blood oxygen level doesn't get saturated. You're in the high 80s, 90s. You're not going below that 80 percentile. We had a very good success rate. Everyone pretty much made it to the top. I was very fortunate. I had a group of people that really encouraged me, helped me work through there. There was a little bit of an unknown. As we're going up the summit, the day of the summit is kind of an interesting set situation. So you kind of get to like a base camp, and you get there around noon, and you get fed very well, and you are told to go to sleep, and we'll wake you up around 8 or 9 o'clock.
At night or
at
morning?
Night.
Okay.
So you really can't sleep because it's day, you got all this light, but you kind of toss and turn. You get about an hour or two of sleep. So about 9 o'clock, the guy comes out, knocks on your tent. You're sleeping on the ground outside. Not too cold. You're dressed in layers. And you get up there and you start, at 10 o'clock, you come out. You're all bundled up, ready to go with your gear. And you start the trek roughly at about 10:30, 11 at night. So the trek up is about a good 6 hours in the middle of the night, and it gets cold because there's no sunlight.
Why in the middle of the night?
Because the climate, it's very clear, and what you don't want is the clouds to come in, and it could become rainy in the afternoon. So you start the trek, and as you're looking up the hill, you can see a whole line, and you've got this light. My daughter calls it the minion. You look like a minion with that little light, and you're going into a coal mine. As you climb up, you see this natural trajectory of people just lining up, and you're going up to the top. It's about a 6 to 7 hour hike all the way up to the top. And once you get daybreak, you're at top. You can see the sun come up. It is a phenomenal view. You're right above the clouds.
Wow.
You're watching the sun come up. And, the hike up is quite difficult because you're leaving, don't have much oxygen. So you take about 10, 15 steps and you get exhausted. You're like tired. You take another 10, 15 steps. As you get higher, it gets harder and harder because you're dealing with very little oxygen. Make it all the way up there right around, I would say, 9 a.m. So you've been on your feet for about 12 hours. And then you kind of can stay up there for 25, 30 minutes, kind of look around. Phenomenal view. Unfortunately, a lot of the glaciers, are starting to disappear. We did see some glaciers. We were able to make it all the way to the top. And then roughly about 11 a.m., you make the trek down. Now, the trek down is kind of hard. So you were talking rocks, pebbles, little boulders, because it's a dormant volcano and you're close to where the volcano is erupting. You come down roughly about 2 p.m. to the base camp, Barufu Base Camp, and you have lunch there. And then you take another 6-7 hour trek all the way down to Millennium Park. And that is quite treacherous because you're all downhill. So your knees, your toenails, and you're exhausted because you've been up almost 24 hours. And as you're going down, it gets harder and harder because you're coming into the rainforest. So you start out with a hat and several layers. And when you get into the rainforest, it's extremely humid, muggy, and you've got all these bugs swarming around you. I remember on the way down, there were 4 of us. One of the doctors that was with us, Dr. Subashi, he's a surgeon. He was coming down, and he had broke his stick. His battery gave out on his light. We had an extra light for him. We made it down to Millennium Camp right around 9:30. And when we got to Millennium Camp, you could hear the frogs. You could hear everything. And so when we got into their camp, we were exhausted. So we're roughly sitting at 24 hours now. So a short break, we got a couple hours of sleep,
Yep.
And then we made it all the way back down. So 19,000 was quite an adventure. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I would say day 3, there is this wall that you have to scale. It's called the Baracco Wall. And in the morning, I was talking to my wife. Actually, cell phone coverage in spots is fine. So I was talking to her, and I said, there's this wall. People are going up there. I'm like, how the heck are we going to climb that? And I said, I guess we'll climb it. So as we get closer, I'm like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? We really have to climb this. So you're really scaling the rock.
You're scaling a rock.
You're scaling a mountain, and you're kind of walking, you're kissing it. You're very close. I mean, 2 wrong steps, and you're probably about 10,000 feet into the ground, and there's no one going to find you there. There's no provisions. So
There's
have to really,
no safety rope. Nobody's on belay. Nobody's.
So you're really just hanging. And I made the mistake, and I was very daring. I looked up, and then I said, "Let me look down." So as I looked down, I'm like, then my head started spinning for about a good minute, and several of the folks on the team recognized, like, okay, Anil's zoning out. So when I look down again, I'm like, that does not look, and I got a long distance to go up. And this is on the third or fourth day. And one of the guys on the team saw it, so he kind of pulled my jacket, and he grabbed me and said, okay, he pulled me up and said, now don't look down.
What was the pitch?
It was probably a good 60, 70 degree incline. So it was quite a and it's not
People
like
don't
it's
understand.
paved.
That is really
It's not
treacherous.
paved.
No.
It's just rock,
No.
and you got to be able to set your foot. And like I said, I was able to do it because I had a lot of encouragement from my wife. She was very encouraging. She said, you're going to do it. Both of my kids were very positive. Said, Dad, this is something you got to do. And I had hesitations going into it.
How did you get down that though? That would be even more treacherous.
Well, that was the night. That was on the way back. But I had a great group of people that I tracked.
But do you go back down that wall?
No, you don't.
No, you don't go back. Okay.
No. So there's several routes. So the route we took kind of takes you to the highest success rate, but it's climatization and making sure your body gets climatized by the oxygen, by the weather. So we took a longer route. So you could probably do it in 3 days, but the success factor is much lower.
Okay, so 8 days to go up. How many days to go back down?
Probably about 12 hours to come down.
Okay.
So the way down is exhausting. So when you started about 3 o'clock, the next morning, about 10 o'clock, we were down there. We were in our hotels, showered, shaved, and had a nice lunch at about noon, about 2 o'clock. So it was quite a trek.
Would you do it again?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Would you go higher? The next highest peak is Denali in Alaska.
It's interesting you asked that. So there's a group of us that are actually looking at this, the same team. There's a couple options on the table. I think this year is going to be kind of out of the question. We haven't had time to train, and we've got to look at the climate. But we're looking at Annapurna as our next, which is right around the Himalayas, kind of going around the different circuit. That's a 14-day expedition. Probably about 200 to 300 feet less than Mount Kilimanjaro, but the scenery is supposed to be very nice. And I think people ask me, why did you do this? And one of the things I kind of look at is when you're up there, you have no phones.
Right.
You have no phone coverage. You're kind of out disconnected. You're on your own. It really gives you time to reflect and to think about and to introspect. And I know in the Christian faith they always say, know thyself. And in the Indian Hindu faith, we also ask about knowing yourself, your Atma, and what you're all about. And it really forces you to ask the question, what am I doing? What's my purpose? How can I make my life better? And gets you time to really ask those questions to yourself in a very peaceful, serene environment with friends, of course. And you can really come down to the basics of what do you really need. So when you look at it, for 10 days, we were able to live on 4 pairs of clothes.
Yeah, right,
we were able to
exactly.
live, eat. They had provisions for showers up there. But if you look at the basic necessities of life and what we really need are not a lot. It's just what we need versus what we want. And being able to capture that and say, okay, what is the true essence of life? And is it about how do you live life and what do you actually give back? So how much really do you need to live and how much really do you want to give back and do something? It doesn't mean you don't want to be ambitious. You want to be ambitious, you want to be successful, you want to be able to strive to the next level.
I don't think anybody at any level, though, doesn't really want a less complicated, more simple life.
Absolutely.
And the world has just become, we're inundated with information all the time where there's always something else going on. Technology has, as much as it's been a benefit, it's also been a distraction from the simpler ways of life. It really has, and it's...
So I summarize with the following, it doesn't matter... we are always, it doesn't matter what your faith is, doesn't matter what political party you belong to. It comes down to solving problems.
Absolutely.
And life is about solving problems, whether you're in the legal industry.
That is so true.
Whether you're in the financial industry, whether you're in the IT, technology, what problems are you solving? And there's no optimum solution to anything.
But solving problems with the right principles behind it. Because I also don't want everybody to say the government needs to be solving our problems.
So
This
fundamentally,
isn't-
no one can
yes.
solve your problems but yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it's up to you taking the initiative. So no one can come to you and say, please wake up.
But
You've got
they
to be
think
able to
that
walk
they're
up.
solving problems. I'm sorry, get a little political here. They think they're solving problems when they pass, 500 legislative bills every session down in Springfield. They're not solving anybody's problem. They're growing problems actually for a lot of people.
I agree with you. So it comes down to your closet. When you look at your closet, and I say this to my wife and I, when we were first married, we had one closet.
Right,
And
shared
we had
closet.
left side was hers. I think left side was hers, and the right side was mine. We had a dividing line. And now I look into my closet and say, honey, what happened? We're still the same person. Why do we have all these clothes? Oh, well, we need more clothes. We've got more things. And then recently I've noticed my daughter's put some stuff on the top. I said, well, wait a minute. We got to take time out here. What are the bare essentials of
Right,
life?
right.
And it kind of comes back to what are the things that you really need to survive and succeed?
Yes.
And how do you have that hunger, that fire in the belly to compete and really to go out there? And you have to be able to be hungry. And if someone's going to be giving you something and giving you free handouts, you're never going to be hungry
No.
because you're just going to be used to it. So the best analogy I give is that if I'm used to giving my son or daughter a lollipop every day, they're going to be asking more and more things. The expectation is going to be set that when Dad comes home, he's going to have a lollipop in his bag or in his suitcase or briefcase. So, or if I go away and I bring a present back, they're always going to be expecting that the
Right.
present will be there. So the day that the present or lollipop doesn't show up, there's going to be a temper tantrum. Says, hey, what happened? How come Dad doesn't like me anymore? He doesn't love me anymore? Or you're not on his game? I think it comes down to setting expectations, being realistic, and having an understanding of what is the true essence of life and what are you really going to do to give back to the community. Because if you look at it, one of my good friends, he's a very successful, and I won't mention his name, he's a very successful entrepreneur. He came here to the U.S. Selling seeds in the agriculture business. He's in the hospitality business. He's done phenomenally well for himself and his family. Very rooted, very grounded person, believes in faith, family, and importance of education, but importance of being a humble person. And he always told me that, you don't need a lot to be successful. You just need to have the personal talent. You have to come from your heart.
Can I ask you this about your friend?
Yes.
Would he have been able to be that successful in India?
I think
Or
he
is
would have been
America
able.
unique?
America is unique. I think he would have been just as successful in India.
Okay.
Because he has the talent, he has the expertise, he has the knowledge, and he has the willingness to get up early and work hard. But I think in America, that gets accelerated because of the environment. Now, I can't speak about what it is to do business or to be that successful in India because I haven't lived there.
Right.
But I can look at it from my lens, and there are very successful people in India. There's a
Yes.
tremendous amount of success that's come there, no different than the U.S. So my fundamental belief is, doesn't matter where you're at, what part of the world you're at. If you want to be successful, you can be successful. It's being able to work the system in an ethical, legal manner and kind of work through that. And you have to have the discipline, the dedication, the devotion to kind of keep going at it, because you're going to be struggles. There's hurdles.
Well, I mean, other than North Korea, China, Iran, Venezuela, we're not talking about those countries. We're talking about countries that have a more free capitalistic outlook.
Yes. So he's been very successful. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, America has been extremely fertile ground. And, my parents migrated here. My family migrated here. My uncles, aunts, my wife's side of the family, they all migrated here. They've been very successful. And that goes to show that, America is a very welcoming country. People can do very well. The people are phenomenal. There's always people that are looking out and saying, oh, there's discrimination, there's, inequality. But, no matter where you go, as I mentioned earlier, there's always going to be pockets of that. You can't avoid it. Only thing you can change is change yourself.
Yeah.
And be the change that you want to see in others. And if you can really go down that path and find goodness, it's, we're never going to see eye to eye. I mean, you and I can talk, and we're not going to agree on everything, but we can agree to disagree. But it's about solving those problems with the right values. And if you have the right values and the right basic understanding of what you want to progress with, that's what really brings us from going from good to great.
Well, this is terrific. Thank you for the conversation. I look forward to following you on your next hike. You called it a hike. Seems like it's more like a climb. But I just appreciate you coming in and telling us your what happened and how you did it, and encouraging us to maybe do it ourselves.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Jeannie. It's been an absolute wonder. And I'll kind of conclude with this. As Martin Luther King would say, there's in his book, Going from Chaos to Community. It's how do we make that work across the American diaspora and working through the communities. So, we're all different, but we all have the same values. We have the same goal, is working well together in a community and being successful. And I think what's happened right now, if we look at our communities, we've kind of polarized ourselves. We've got to come together and work through these items because the rest of the world is moving. Are we standing still, or are we taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back? That's really the gauge. So as a country, we have to advance the agenda. It may not be optimum, may not be 100%, but can we get to 80, 90% and still move forward and make sure that we have success, and as a country we progress with the right values and the right concepts?
Well, we have to. America is still the greatest nation on the face of the earth.
It's the only country I know where people line up to come in.
Absolutely.
There's no other country in the world where people want to come in. And at the same token, there's people outside of this country that always want to say America's this, America's that. America is a phenomenal country. Our forefathers did an excellent job going back to Washington, Lincoln,
Yes.
and every president out there has done a phenomenal job given the circumstances.
And we're
they're at.
recording this on the anniversary of D-Day, June 6th, and we cannot forget the sacrifices that so many other Americans have made to give us the ability to live lives in freedom. That is unique.
Absolutely. Our veterans, our military, I salute them. I thank them for everything that they've done. We wouldn't be here without them. They've sacrificed not only themselves, their families, their extended families, and we should really absolutely, as prior presidents have said, we should absolutely take care of our veterans, their family. They're the reason why we're here.
Okay. Well, thank you so much on joining me on The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. You can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, AM 560's podcast list, and elsewhere. Thank you so much.